So back by popular demand, we are going to read Michael another Dr. Seuss book. Horton hears a who. He's going to be relaxing in bed. He's a little sleepy from being fussy all day. And we will see how it goes. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing and enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked towards the sound. "That's funny," thought Horton, "there's no one around." Then he heard it again, just a faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling out for help. "I'll help you," said Horton, "but who are you where?" He looked and he looked, but he could not see there. But a small speck of dust was blowing through the air. "I say," murmured Horton, "I'll never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? I think. Why, I think that there must be someone on top of that speck of dust. Some sort of creature of very small size, too small to be seen by elephant eyes. Or some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in a pool. He has no way to steer. I must save him because, after all, a person's a person, no matter how small." So gently, and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched out his great trunk through the air. He lifted the dust of speck and carried it over, and placed it down safely on a very soft clover. Humped a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo, and a young kangaroo and a possum too. "Why, that speck is small as the head on a pin, and a person on that, why, there never has been." "Believe me," said Horton, "I'll tell you sincerely. My ears are quite keen, and I heard him quite clearly. I know that there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's two, even three, even four, quite likely. A family for all we know, a family with children just starting to grow. So please," Horton said, "as a favor to me, try not to disturb them, just let them be." "I think you're a fool," laughed the sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. You're the biggest blamed fool in the jungle of Newell," and the kangaroo plunged into the cool pool. What terrible splashing, the elephant frowned. "I can't let my very small person get drowned. I've got to protect them, I'm bigger than they." So he plucked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle tree tops, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. I looked at him walk with a speck on a flower, and Horton walked worrying almost for an hour. So I put this speck down, Horton thought with an alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small. Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could barely hear it. "Speak up, please, Horton." He put his ear near it. "My friend," came the voice, "you're a very fine friend. You've helped all the folks on the dust speck with no end. You saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors, and you saved all our churches and grocery stores." "You mean," Horton guessed, "you have buildings there too?" "Oh yes," piped the voice, "we most certainly do." "I know," called the voice, "I too have been seen, but I am the mayor of the town that's friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us we are big, they're wonderfully tall. My town is Whoville, and I'm a Who, and we of Who are thankful and grateful to you." And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, "You're safe now, don't worry, I won't let you down." But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up on Horton's neck. The Wickshire brothers came shouting, "What rot! The elephant too, who's not? Those aren't the Who, and they don't have a mayor. And we are going to stop all this nonsense, so there." They snatched Horton's clover, they carried it off to a back-bottom eagle named Vladikoff, a mighty strong eagle with swift in wing, and they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant could even speak, the eagle flew off with a flower in its beak. All that late afternoon and far into the night, the black-bottomed bird has flapping his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that taggered his toenails and battered his bones, and begged, "Please don't harm my little folks, who have such a right to live as us bigger folks do." But far, far away the eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder he called back, "Quit your yapping. I'll fly through the night, I am bird, I don't mind, and I'll hide this tomorrow, where you'll never find it." And at 6:56 the next morning he did, I'm sure with a terrible place that he hid it. We let the small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. "Find that," sneered the bird, "but I think you will fail," and he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail. "I'll find it," cried Horton, "I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on the small speck of dust." A clover by clover by clover in care, he picked up and searched them and called, "Are you there?" But clover by clover by clover he found that the one he sought for was just not around. By noon, poor old Horton, more dead than alive, he picked and searched and piled 9,005. And then through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last, 1,000,000, 3,000,000 flower. "My friends," cried the elephant, "tell me, do tell, are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well?" From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor, "We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottomed birdie let go and we dropped, we landed so hard that our clocks have all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, and our bicycle tires all blew when we end up in the crash. So Horton, please," pleaded the mayor, "will you stick by the who and while we're making repairs?" "Of course," Horton answered, "of course I will stick. I'll stick by you small folks through thin, through and thick." "Hum, hummed that voice. Well, for most of 2 days you've run wild and instead on chatting with persons who've never existed. Such carrying on in a peaceable jungle, we've had quite enough of you big bellowing fellow, and I'm here to state," snapped the big kangaroo, "that your silly nonsensical game is all through." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too." With the help of the Wickershire brother and dozens of Wickershire uncles and Wickershire cousins and Wickershire in-laws whose help I've engaged, you're going to be roped, you're going to be caged. And for that dust speck, that shall we boil. In a hot steaming kettle of bees' nut oil. "Boil," gasped Horton. "Oh, that you can't do? It's full of persons. Here, I'll prove it to you." Mr. Mayor," Horton called, "Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you really are there. So call a big meeting, get everyone out. Make every who holler, make every who shout. Make every who scream, and if you don't, every who is going to end up in a bee's nut stew." And down on the dust speck, the scared little mayor called a quick meeting in Whoville Town Square, and his people cried loudly, they cried out in fear, "We are here, we are here, we are here, we are here." The elephant smiled, that was as clear as a bell. The kangaroo surely heard that as well. "All I heard," snapped the big kangaroo, "was the breeze, and the faint sound of wind flowing through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and neither did you." And the young kangaroo in the pouch said, "Me too." "Grab him," they shouted, in the cage as big as the dope. "Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots so he'll never shake loose. Then dunk that dumb speck in the bee's nut juice." Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickershire gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage, but he managed to call to the mayor, "Don't give up, I believe in you all. A person's a person, no matter how small. And very small persons will not have to die if I make yourself heard, so come on now and try." The mayor grabbed a tom-tom, he started to smack it. And all over Whoville, the whoop up the racket. They rattled tin cans, they beat brass pans, and on a garage pail with old cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted great toots, on clarinets, oompas, and paloopas, and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky, and the mayor called up through the howling mad hubbub, "Hey, Horton, how's this? Is my sound coming through?" And Horton called back, "I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't quite as strong as mine. They don't hear a thing, and I'm sure that you boys, all doing your best, are all making the noise. Are you looking for Whoville, or down in Whoville working? Quick, loot your town, is somebody shirking?" Through the town rushed the mayor from east to west, but everybody seemed to be doing their best. Everyone seemed to be yapping or yipping. Everyone seemed to be beeping or beeping. But it wasn't enough, all the ruckus and roar. He had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building, he searched floor to floor, and just as he felt he was getting nowhere, he had almost given up in great despair. Suddenly the mayor burst through the door, discovered one shirker, quit hiding away. In the Fairfax Apartments, apartment 12J, a very small shirking named Jojo was just standing and bouncing a yo-yo. Not a making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp, and the mayor rushed inside and grabbed him, the young twerp. And he climbed up the ladder to the Eiffelberg Tower. "This," cried the mayor, "is the town's darkest hour. The time for all who have blood is red, to come to the aid of their country," he said. "We've got to make noise in great amounts, so open your mouth up, lad, every voice counts." Thus as he spoke, as he climbed, when they got to the tower, the lad cleared his yawn and yelled out, "Yop!" And that yop, this very small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from the speck on the clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean, and the elephant smiled. "Do you see what I mean? They prove there are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all." "How true, yes, how true," said the big kangaroo. "And from now on, you know what I'm planning to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them with you." And the young kangaroo said, "Me too! From sun and sign, from brain to fallish, I'm going to protect them, no matter how smallish." That will be Michael's third book, while he's sleeping away in his crib.